Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie and welcome back to Secondhand Sickness. So in today's video I am back at the table and we are actually going to run through a stack of books. It's going to be 100% books today, and most of these are also part of my Kurt Hson obsession. As you know, I'm a really big collector of this Swedish publicist from the 60s and 70s who was known as the porn king here in Sweden. And I'm essentially building a website about this, which I will leave a link for in the video description. And you can also find my new Instagram account there. And this is all in Swedish, but hopefully you will still enjoy this presentation on account of the artwork. So I'm just going to get to it, and I'm actually not going to talk too much about the prices today because I honestly don't remember what I paid for all these books, and I've been purchasing so many of them recently that I just really can't keep track. So the first one I want to bring up is this one. This is called Erotic Stage Fright, and it is quite a rare book. It's part of the Snubby series, which translates to Quickie, as in Quickie, the sexual act. And oddly enough, you know, this is volume 4, so quite a low number. But you can also see that this actually has a very sort of weird cut or weird edge to it down here. And looking at it more closely, I realized that it only has one sort of tack to the spine. So this probably ended up sort of, you know, being cut wrong or something happened in the machine. So it's a bit of a shame because otherwise it is quite in good condition. But regardless of which, I really like this. And it's just one of those issues which I haven't ever seen before picking this up. So was quite happy to find this. And I think pretty much all of these are finds from Swedish eBay, as far as I remember. Next up, we got one which is a bit more uncensored. It's got a bit of a nipple on it, and this is part of the Ficky series, and it's called The Love Roulette. And we can actually turn to the back, just in case you want to see it. And in case you read Swedish, you can just freeze frame and read the text on the back, which is quite hilarious actually. Usually these are part of why I really like collecting these, because the language and the sort of descriptions of stuff is just so sort of dated, which makes it quite a bit fun to just read through it. Next up, we got another one which is also a bit uncensored in terms of showing a sexual act, but it's not actually explicit. So this one is called this is hard to translate. It's just like sex in the eyes or sex in the looks, like someone's giving someone a sex inviting look, so to speak, I suppose. Anyway, here we got the back. Also really appreciate this design in general, like the very sort of bright yellow colors. That's always been something that I quite enjoyed with these. Now I'm gonna stack these up in a bit of a weird way just to try to sort of hide whenever there is some explicit action going on. I'll try to censor with my hands as much as I can and not focus too much on it, and hopefully that's okay. I don't think YouTube is gonna have a major issue with this. Next one is also part of the Ficky series. This is part of one of those which is not numbered. Some of them will have a spine number, but this one does not. And this one is called From Hand to Mouth. Yeah, there we got the little text on the back. And most of these books, I can also say, tend to be designed by the same guy. And here is the next one. This is called A Woman's Mistress. And the guy who designed most of the cover art was apparently a guy named Göte Sundgren. But I honestly have very little info about him. I can't really find much at all. And I'm not going to flip this one over because it's essentially pretty much identical on the back, the same imagery. So I'll just cover that up for now so we don't have to deal with it. And next one is pretty funny. I actually found a second copy of this super rare book, which is called How to Get a Better Chest, or better boobs, or yeah, better chest, I suppose. So this has some really bizarre sort of training images in them, just very sort of strange aerobic exercises, which, you know, will allow you to sort of tone your upper body. But you might remember that in one of the previous episodes when I was visiting Gothenburg, I actually found a copy of this, which was the first time I ever saw it. And I spent something like 300 Swedish crowns, roughly 30 euro on that copy, which I thought was a great bargain. Then I actually found this, which is pretty much mint condition, actually better condition than the previous one. And I think I got this on Swedish eBay for something like 20 euro. So once again, a great find, and I'm actually planning to sell the other copy or trade it for something. So really stoked about this, because I was a bit bummed that the previous copy wasn't in the best of shape, to be honest. But this one is in awesome shape, so really happy about that. Next up, we got another early one from the Ficus series. This one is called Adam, 17 Years Old, and this doesn't really have any sort of explicit imagery on it, but quite a sort of unusual color combination. Most of the time you will have these bright sort of yellow, reds, black, pink, but this early one, which actually has a bit of a green, is quite unusual. I don't think I've hardly ever seen another book in the series which has this sort of green tone to them. Quite an unusual color combination, to be honest. So that's that. And next up we got one which is called A Sex Guide at Mallorca. And here we got the back, also a lot of really bright yellow colors. And like I said, I am, you know, working on a website which is fairly new, and I'll leave a link for this. So if you want to see more of this type of stuff, like more covers like this, you can just go to the website, click around. And oh yeah, I actually made a video about the website to show you how it works in case you don't speak the language. So I will leave a link for that video as well in case you want to check it out and sort of understand how you can navigate even if you don't speak Swedish. So yeah, be sure to check that out if you are interested in this kind of stuff. Otherwise, you'll just have to check the website and sort of browse blindly because it's all in Swedish. So yeah, hopefully you'll get something out of it. And let's see, so next up we got another book, and this one is a bit more explicit. This is part of the so-called Goal series from the Ficus label, and this one is called She Sold Her Virginity, and we definitely can't check the back, and I'm also going to cover up the front because I don't want you seeing the pubes that were somewhat visible on the cover. So let's just leave that as such. So quite a bit of books here already. I'm trying to realign some stuff so we can get more books into frame. I'll just bring this out to the side. Okay. So let's see what else we got. Still a big stack to go. So I'm gonna have to do this sort of while I'm shooting, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to fit everything in frame. All right, so next up we got quite a rare book, which I don't think I paid too much for, and this is called We're Flying in the Air, and it's from a guy who has actually worked under pseudonym. So this says that it's someone named Archibald Archimedes Blunder who is the writer, but this is actually a pseudonym for Kurt Hson himself. So this is quite an unusual book where he is the writer, and I think this is the first book he ever wrote. And honestly not sure how many he did write, because he wasn't generally a writer, he was primarily a publicist. So yeah, quite an interesting find, and I don't really think I paid too much for that either, to be honest. So that was a surprising find, because I expected to pay much more for that. And we got another really old and early book, which is quite an unusual large format. This is called The Lot of Slave Women, like, you know, your lot in life. And this is one of those books which I'm pretty sure is based off of a English version which was released earlier, but I can't find info about the title of that. The original writer of this is someone called Janice Howell Lelang, and it says that Kurt Hson himself did the translation of this, I think. if I remember correctly. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, quite an old book. I think we can at least check when this is from. I think this is from the 50s, if I remember. Yeah, 1953. So quite an old format, pretty interesting cover. But yeah, it's sort of hard to keep this. Gonna have to lay the big books at the bottom to be able to just sort of stack this up in a good way. So let's just move some stuff around. So there we go. Now we get to a couple of magazines. First one is also from Kurt Hson. This is something called Modern Man magazine, and this one is from 1962, issue number 3. And not really gonna focus on the back. There are some nipples there, so let's just avoid it. But pretty good shape. Don't have a lot of these. I think I only have like one more issue of this magazine, so this was kind of fun. Then next one is even rarer. This is a very good condition copy of a sort of adult comic book or comic books magazine, which is called Raquel. This is number 1 from 1978. And as you can see, obviously quite an adult-themed magazine. On the back we have some advertising actually for a book about Elvis, which I think I've shown previously. But yeah, quite an unusual magazine. They only made some very few issues of this. I think something like maybe 8 issues in total. I mean, if we're talking like how many issues, I mean, there are obviously more than 8 copies of this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like this is number 1 from 1978, then you had number 2, number 3, and number 4, and so forth. And in total, I think they only issued 8 issues over a few years, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, very rare find, very good condition, and did not pay too much for this. I think it was a package deal, and I think I might have paid like, I don't know, 20, 30 euro, and this is easily worth, I think, 50 euro at least. So quite a good find. Next up we got another one which is explicit. This is not released by Kurt Hson, but this is something called okay, let's try to translate this. This is The Unbeatable Cult Book, The Great Pickup Bible. Yeah, very difficult to translate. All right. So apparently this is like one of those really cheesy sort of things which came together with a sort of men's magazine here in Sweden, which is called Aktuell Rapport. Was part of number 48 in the series. Not sure which year this was, but presumably in the 80s. And so this is essentially a book about how to pick up women. That's pretty much what it is. So very sort of cringy. And I sort of got this thrown in as part of a package deal. I sort of said I wanted it and tried to haggle the price down. So yeah, quite a odd book. And pretty hilarious just because it is very sort of cringy in terms of the content. Next up we got a couple of books from the same series, which is called the Jalousie series, and jalousie is Swedish for like, you know, blinds that you have at the window, so hence the sort of design of looking through a blind, which I think is really cool. And this is going to be difficult to flip over because it's essentially the same image with the nipple there. So this one is called Hot Countries, and it is photo illustrated, but we're not gonna check the photos. So let's go ahead and just sneak this in somewhere. I'll sneak this in over here. So that's that. Next up is another book from the same series. You can see the sort of style. They tend to have sort of the same cover art design, which I love. I really love the sort of consistency and coherence of the series. And this one is pretty cool. This is called Black Mass. So obviously some sort of a satanic reference there. And we can also check the back in case you want to read the text in Swedish. So yeah, really like this as part of my sort of occult and Satanism themed collection. So very cool find indeed. Not really sure what I paid, but like I said, we're not gonna really focus on the prices I paid today because it's just too difficult to keep track. So next one is actually illustrated. This is not a photo, so I will make an exception, even though it is explicit. So this is a American or English book, which is called Felicity, apparently part of some sort of BDSM type category. And this is not illustrated aside from the cover, I think. No, just text. But I still really thought this was a cool design, and I essentially got it as part of a package deal. I was buying some stuff from the same seller, so just trying to save on shipping, and I ended up buying this as well. But we can also sort of just put this away because I don't want YouTube to get overly sensitive about stuff. Okay, so now we are actually going to look at a title which is really odd. One of the oddest ones in terms of the Kurt Hson stuff. Gonna be hard to translate this. This one is called the I can't, the Farto guy. Okay, and so this is actually a biography. It's a book about a guy named Joseph Pujol. I'm not really sure how I'm pronouncing it. He's a Frenchman, and he essentially performed by farting on stage. This was his livelihood. And his sort of stage name was Le Petoman. And you can actually find clips of him on YouTube, even though they're silent films. So yeah, just a very, very strange book, and very unusual book in the Kurt Hson label, because he generally didn't release stuff like this. Mostly it was just a question about erotica, so by that standard quite a odd title in the collection, and one that I've been looking for quite a while, and didn't pay too much for this either. I think I scored it for 20 euro or something, and this is literally like an impossible book to find, I gotta say. Even though I did see a second copy when I was at the store in Gothenburg, which I did not buy because I already had this. So next up we got another one from the Ficus series. This one is called Eve Adrift, like Eve, the name Eve, like Adam and Eve. So an Eve at drift, sort of. Yeah, it's hard to sort of, you know, explain some of these translated titles because they sound odd in English, obviously. So yeah, so let's see. I got a pretty good stack here, but I actually have a few left, so let's just keep it going. And next one is called A Symphony in Sex. And yeah, we can flip this over, look at the back in case you want to read it or freeze frame, and brush up on your Swedish. Once again, this might be a bit sensitive. Got a bit of pubes there at the end, so let's just keep stacking this up. And yeah, you're not going to see all the titles because there's just not enough room. Next one is called Hot Summer. Once again, not really explicit. And there we can read the back. So keep stacking these up. Then we got another one, which is also in the green tone, which I said was quite unusual. So like you see, most yellow and red, but then there's some of these odd early ones which have a different tone to them. So this one is called The Eternal Hard-On. Great title, great cover. There we got the back. So let's see if we can add some more to that. There we go. And now we're getting to the end of the stack. This one is slightly uncensored. This is called Studio Sex, or TV Studio Sex. And there we just got the back, in case you want a freeze frame. And I'll add that to that pile. There we go. Yeah, now I'm gonna have to stop soon because things are really falling over here, so sorry about that. But we only have a few titles left, so next up is a bit of an unusual format in terms of the size. This is called The Nympho, or The Nymphomaniac. It's by a guy named George Orbnus, and this is released by the Elephant Press, which was Kurt Hson's publishing company prior to him starting his own company. I think this was like one of the earlier things before he sort of started publishing more under his own name. But really like the format on this, and the cover art is also by Göte Sundgren, who did like most of these covers. You sort of recognize the style, which I think is awesome, and it's also part of why I love these books. Let's see, but this is a bit larger, so let's just put that there. Try and keep the stacks in good order. Okay, so now we get to the last one, which is also a bit out of the ordinary. A little bit explicit here, got a bit of a nipple. So this is a Swedish book which is called The ABCs of Striptease. Never heard about this. It's from some guy named Chris Lee. And I spotted this on Swedish eBay. It's a book printed in Swedish, which I've never heard about. This is something as strange as an instructional book on how to perform striptease. So this literally has like numbered instructions for women on how to take their clothes off. So we're not going to go too far, but it's so many steps, like it never ends. The entire book is like this. You can see quite a few steps here. So this is all what it is. It's just a bunch of photos of women taking their clothes off with the addition of very detailed instructions. Like, you know, there's a picture and then there's like, move your left hand to your right breast. Maybe caress your inner thigh. Move around. Put this... It's such a weird book, and I love it. I forget what I paid, but maybe like, I don't know, 30 euro thereabouts. I think that one was actually a bit more expensive, but I've never seen a copy before. Very, very strange. So super happy about actually finding that. Whew. And that is pretty much it. So quite a stack of books, but I've essentially been buying so many books recently that I just felt like, you know what, I'm just going to make one big video and sort of run through them, because it's hard to keep track when I'm trying to add some of these books to the website, sort of scanning the fronts and back, and then trying to just make different piles and keep track of, okay, what's been scanned, what's been reviewed for YouTube, what have I showed, what have I posted on Instagram. You know, it's a really big mess of things if you don't sort of try to maintain it. So that's sort of why I wanted to just, okay, make one big video, just run through it all, and hopefully that's something that's of interest to the viewers. So yeah, not a lot of mystery today, but hopefully you found this interesting. But that's pretty much it. I want to say thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.